John here from Great Lakes Country. In my last video, I showed how to make the most beautiful pickled jalapeno rings that are basically like the kind you would buy in the store, but cheaper and tastier. Well, not every use of jalapenos calls for them to be pickled jalapeno. So it's also a great thing to have some non-pickled jalapenos on hand. And that means this is video number 2 in my jalapeno canning mini series. Last week we did pickled jalapenos. This week we're doing not pickled jalapenos. And be sure to check in with the next video that comes out, in which we'll be doing an amazing jalapeno jelly. And because these aren't pickled and they aren't basically swimming in a vinegar-based brine, that means we have to use the pressure canner. Vegetables all by themselves are considered low acid foods, and if you're not pickling them with a bunch of vinegar, you have to use a pressure canner. And that's pretty much because steam can get much hotter than boiling water, and we need that extra heat to ensure that any little nasty bacteria and whatnot are killed off and our canned vegetables, in this case jalapenos, are perfectly food safe and shelf stable. So let's jump into it and start cutting up all the jalapenos we're gonna be canning today. All right, here I've got a little over 4 pounds of fresh jalapenos, and I'm gonna be canning these up in a couple different ways. Sure, I wanna do a bunch of jalapeno rings, but I'd also like to do some, well, not necessarily whole jalapenos, but halved jalapenos. Whole jalapenos would be great, but I really don't need all those seeds in there for the things that I use these for. So I like to slice them in half, get most of those seeds out of there. Anyway, we're gonna be doing about 2 pounds of the sliced in half and about 2 pounds of jalapeno rings. And you've seen this before. For the rings, I'm gonna go ahead and just slice off the end where the stem is. And then I like to get in there with a little paring knife and just kind of scoop out some of that white pithy stuff that's right there at the end. It's not that important, but I really don't think that stuff tastes good or really contributes to a good canned jalapeno. Then I'll just start slicing them up about maybe 1/4 inch thick. And for the couple slices that were nearest the stem, I do sometimes like to just go through and poke the middle and get more of that pithy stuff out of there. You get rid of a bunch of the seeds that way, which is good because a lot of people are fine with the jalapeno seeds, but I think having a big mouthful of seeds chewing on them isn't, I don't know, a great experience, but it doesn't really matter. Again, jalapenos that you buy cut up into rings from the store do definitely have a ton of seeds in them. Anyway, I'll just go through and slice all these up until I've got about 2 pounds of sliced jalapeno rings. And for the jalapenos that we're just going to be cutting in half, it really couldn't get simpler. Once again, I'll cut the stem end off, slice each jalapeno right down the center, and then I'm just gonna sort of scoop out all of this pithy, seedy stuff. Usually I can just sort of get my thumb in there, pop all that right out of there, and that's it. And I'll just repeat about 30 times. All right, so we've got all our jalapenos cut in half or cut into rings, and now we're gonna move on to the blanching step. And because it's a beautiful day, I figured we'd do this part outside. So I've got the Camp Chef stove fired up, and I've got a pot of water coming up to a boil. When that water's boiling, I'm just gonna drop in my jalapeno. I'll do the rings and the halves separately so I can keep them separate, and they're just going in that water for about 2 minutes. And this isn't necessarily a true blanch because they're not gonna be going into ice water or anything like that afterwards. We just wanna cook them in that boiling water for a couple minutes and then pull them right out. So I'll do the rings first, get them out of there, let that water come back to a boil, throw in the halves, pull those out, and then we're ready to start filling up some jars. All right, let's start filling up some jars. I think that I'm probably gonna have about 3 pints worth of each of my types of jalapeno. So that's what I got laid out here. And now I'm just gonna start loading up some jars. I'll throw in these still pretty piping hot jalapeno halves, kind of get them pressed down in there. I wanna fill these up pretty much as full as I can get them. If that means I gotta squish them and press them down a bit, that's okay. We want to get these packed in pretty much to the top, but we do need to leave 1 inch of headspace. I know with water bath canning, we generally talk about a 1/2 inch headspace, but with pressure canning, 1 inch is much more common. So I'll just keep filling these up, pressing them in. It's okay if they get a little bit bent. They're gonna be completely soft by the time they're done pressure canning, and that's not gonna really be any kind of a problem. And that was a pretty good estimate. That's all of my halved jalapenos. Fit pretty much perfectly in 3 pint jars. Now we can move over to the rings, and we're doing the same thing. Just drop them in, fill these jars up. And that's looking pretty good too. Now we just need to take some of that water that we previously blanched these peppers in and ladle that into these jars. Pretty much filling them up, but again, we need to keep that 1 inch of headspace. And 1 inch is about to the bottom edge of the threads where you would screw the lid. So I kind of use that as my guide, but of course, we're gonna double check that in a minute with a headspace measuring tool. All right, and here's that headspace measuring tool. Basically, it's got some little notches on this end, and this notch all the way at the bottom is the 1 inch mark. So if I set that on the top edge of my jar, the very tip of the tool shouldn't touch the water or anything else except just barely a little bit. And that's how we know we've got 1 inch of headspace. And I could use just a tiny bit more in this jar, and that's looking pretty good. And if there's any little peppers still poking up, we can kind of just push those down. We're looking pretty good on that one. Almost seems like I've gotten good at estimating this after doing it about 1,000,000 times. I think that one could use a tiny bit more. Now, using the other end of that tool, I'm going to debubble. And that just basically involves kind of pressing this thing down into the jars, making sure to scrape the inner walls of the jar a little bit, just looking to dislodge any air bubbles that might be trapped down in there. And it can be a little bit tricky to push this thing down there when the jar is full of solid things. Just do the best you can. Some people use a chopstick for this step, and that works fine too. And if we wanted, we could also gently thump them on the table a little bit. Help any bubbles that are still in there get released. Now to wipe the top rims of each jar. And that just involves taking some damp paper towel, thoroughly making sure that the top edge of that glass is clean. And this isn't that big of a deal considering really the only liquid we're working with is some water that has a little bit of jalapeno in it. But we still just want to make sure, because if there's anything sticky or any kind of residue sitting on that top edge, it can obstruct the lid seal from really forming a good seal, and that can lead to a failed canning. So we always wipe the rims with some paper towel that has a little bit of water on it. Now it's time for the lids, and I've had my lids in this little saucepan just simmering for a few minutes. You know, in the old days they said that you should always boil your lids, but in more recent times the manufacturer actually recommends against boiling them, suggesting that doing so could damage the rubber seal on them. But simmering is still okay, and so that's what I do. I'll just set each lid right on the jar, making sure it's good and centered. And then we're ready for the metal rings. So we'll just screw those on. Make sure they're snug, but not overly tight. You definitely don't want to crank them down there. Just tight enough to make sure they aren't loose when we put them in the canner. Now we're ready to take these jars back outside and get the pressure canner fired up. So here I've got my Granite Ware pressure canner, and the way this thing works is that I need to first fill it with 3 quarts of water. And that's marked on the inner side of the thing with a little faint line that I'm sure is impossible to see on this video. So I've got my 3 quarts of water in, and I do have the heat turned on to bring that water up in temperature a little bit before we really start, because I've got some very hot mason jars full of hot jalapenos and liquid, and I don't want to set those super hot jars into cold water. So I'm going to bring the temperature of that water up till it's more in line with the temperature of these jars, because that way we're going to pretty much guarantee that there's no risk of any glass cracking. When the temperature of the water in the canner seems good, I'll go ahead and set in my jars. I'll make sure that they're not touching each other or the outer walls of the canner, which isn't really a problem with just 6 of these little pint jars. Then I'm putting on the lid and cranking the heat on the stove up to high, because the next thing we have to do is the venting step. And that basically means getting that water inside boiling and creating a lot of steam. The steam is going to push anything that isn't steam out of the canner through this little vent in the top. And when I say anything that isn't steam, I'm basically talking about air. All the air is gonna be evacuated out of this thing. It's gonna be a pure steam environment. And to make sure that all of the air has vented, we have to let this venting step go on for 10 minutes. And we know once the venting has started because there will be a pretty solid little jet of steam shooting out of this vent. That may be pretty hard to see on this camera outside where it's very bright out, but there's definitely a solid little jet of steam shooting out of the top of this thing. And when the venting has completed, we can add our pressure regulator. And this is a pretty simple type of pressure canner that uses a weighted topper to regulate that pressure. Now with a weighted pressure canner like this, we need 10 pounds of pressure. If you are using the fancier kind that has a dial gauge on it, use 11 pounds of pressure. But for this one, the topper with one of these little metal rings on it equates to 10 pounds of pressure. So I'll get that situated on the little vent using some tongs because there is screaming hot steam shooting out of it. And I'll let the pressure build up for another couple minutes in that pressure canner. And once I see that this little topper starts rocking back and forth, I know that the processing time has begun. We're looking for a pretty rhythmic, steady rocking back and forth of that topper. We don't want anything too violent. We don't want it barely moving, just a good, even rocking back and forth. And for vegetables like these, we need to process for 35 minutes. So once that rocking has started, I'm gonna set my timer for 35 minutes. And I may need to adjust the flame on this stove a little bit as we go, because as more and more pressure builds, this topper might start rocking more and more. I usually have to dial back the heat a little bit to maintain that sweet spot where it's not too hot in there, but it's definitely still enough to keep that topper rocking. And after 35 minutes, I'm gonna turn the heat off and just leave everything alone for a few more minutes. Let the pressure inside of the canner come down all by itself. And once that topper's pretty much not moving anymore and you don't hear any more hissing or steam escaping, you can pull that topper off, again, with a pair of tongs, and then pop the lid off of the canner. And my jars have finished processing. So I'm gonna carefully transfer them out of the canner and onto a towel on the cutting board and just leave them alone, because now I have to let them completely come down to room temperature. And over the next little while, I'll expect to hear each one of these lids pop, which is the center of the lid being pulled inward and thereby signifying a successful seal. And as always, if any of my jars don't seal, well, I cannot consider that particular jar to be shelf stable. On the rare occasion that that happens, I could put a new lid on it, totally reprocess it, but generally I'll just throw that jar in the fridge and make sure to use it first. Failed seals don't happen often if you follow all the steps, but they still do happen sometimes, and they happen to everyone. Anyway, all of these jars that do seal, which I expect will be all of them, as soon as they're cooled down to room temperature, they're ready to put up in the pantry, and I'll have some beautiful, non-pickled canned jalapenos to enjoy whenever I want over the next year or so. So there we have it, a big old batch of not pickled jalapenos, some rings, some just sliced in half, ready to use for any of our recipes that may call for not pickled jalapenos. Throw them in a stir fry, pile them up with some grilled onions on an amazing bratwurst, or do anything else you want with them. And if you're a big jalapeno fan, be sure to check out the last video where we did the pickled jalapeno rings, and make sure to check back and see the next video, which will be all about making and canning a wonderful jalapeno jelly. So be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest stuff, including future canning and food preservation videos, including those other jalapeno videos I mentioned. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm John, and this is Great Lakes Country.